Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be working on an interior front door trim panel on the 07 to 14 GMT 900 style bodies in the SUV series. This is a 2013 Chevrolet Avalanche LT, but all the models covered in the description this will apply to. So the problem we're working on is this has a broken grab handle on the armrest here. So we come in here with a mirror. You can see how it is cracked in the back here. So this whole thing is flexing pretty bad. Inside there is like a white reinforcement that's all shattered, white plastic, and the pieces are all kind of laying in there. So what we're going to be doing today is the professional way to do this repair, right? This is not going to be a wrap it with duct tape kind of deal. We're going to do it the professional way. So if you want to learn how to do this the right way, then stay tuned and I'll show you. Let's take a look at the service manual and see what's involved in getting to this part. Alright, so what's involved in this for all these models in this particular service manual? And of course this is the 2013, but what we're going to be showing is going to be very similar for all the years that are in the title and the description. So front side door trim panel replacement. There's a bunch of pictures, but we're going to follow along and reference the pictures with the text. Right, so they're going to tell you that you need to remove the upper trim panel, and that's going to be on a different page. And then remove the door window control switch, and that's going to be on a different page. And then they tell you about replacing the door water deflector. That's once we get inside. We'll see if we need to do that or not. But the procedure just on the panel: lower the window, ensure the locking rod is in the unlocked position. Use a flat-bladed tool to disengage the detent, and then remove the knob by pulling upward. And then they give you a note about when reinstalling it. So what they're talking about here is when we are first getting started here, getting this guy removed from the door. Then they talked about removing the front side door trim cover and then pulling the 3 screws that are there, the 3 retainers. So that's this cover here, and then the 3 retainers that are behind it. And then they're talking about the inside door handle bezel cover, removing that. They're referencing as number 4, and then grabbing 3 more bolts. And then they give you the torque value for reinstalling them. So that picture's here. There's that guy right there, and then there's your 1, 2, 3 bolts that they're referring to that are holding all that together. And then they're telling you what the front side door trim panel assembly is, so that you can know what it is, right? This is the piece we're trying to get off, part 6, this whole deal here. They're telling you once you get at this point, you want to disconnect your electrical connectors. They're giving you a pointer that there's a couple of hooks on the lower part of this panel. They're telling you if you happen to damage them that's okay. You don't have to change out the panel. And then they're giving you a note when you're getting ready to reinstall it about the positioning of the lock knob. The last thing they're going to tell you is talk to you about is this front side door cable retainer. They're telling you to press both tabs to remove the cable and pull it rearward out of the handle. And then they give you a note about reinstalling it. That's this picture right here. We'll go through all of this, by the way. And then finally, the front side door trim panel retainer. There's a bunch of pop-in type typical trim retaining clips that will have to pop this guy loose of the sheet metal of the door to actually remove him. So that's the procedure for that piece. Just a quick look at what they tell you about here on 176 and 177. They're pointing out, depending on your models, everything except the Escalade looks like this. So you're just going to unsnap this piece that's kind of catty corner for the rear view mirror, and then the Cadillac Escalade has a different shape, but it's the same deal. That has to come off. So that's what we're going to be doing. So let's get on it. Alright, the other reference they had was removing the door lock and slide window switch. You can see here's the driver's side. They're just indicating that there are a couple of retaining clips that fit into here and here on the armrest. You basically just prise this out. And then on the passenger side, it's a different type of switch, so the electrical connections are going to be less, but it's the same deal. In this case, they actually show these little clips separate. They may come off of the switch and get stuck inside here, but they're supposed to stay attached to the switch. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is pop the key in a position where we can lower the window. And then we're going to open the door lock, and if you zoom in here, you can see there's like a little door here. We're going to take a small pry bar And we're going to just open this guy up to release him. Come on. All right, you just want to prise him up just enough to let go of that threaded rod. It comes right off. All right, the next thing they wanted us to go after was this cover here. If we pull the handle back, we'll see there's a place to stick our tool. Just going to stick my finger here in case it pops off. There's a 10 millimeter here, and what you're trying to do is make sure that these two guys don't get broke, that hold it on here and here. All right, and then they told, they wanted you to pull the fastener at this point, but I'm going to go one step further. We'll pull the fastener together with the one down here. And so this inside the handle piece here, we can see the seam of another cover panel here. Now this one doesn't have an indent for the tool, so just kind of fit your pry tool in where you can. What I'm trying to do here is just get a feel for where the clips might be. So it seems like coming in from the side is probably going to be best. Come on, baby. Okay, I'm going to grab a second tool to give myself a little bit of a pull with this. Just a little hooked pick here. Just to get this guy to let go on that side and then this side. So what you got going on here is here, 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 and here. So like I was grabbing it on this side, you want to grab it either here or here. It's going to be easier than trying to get these two loose. And then if you see down there, we got another 10 and another 10. Put this aside, put these tools aside. Now let's get these fasteners. Just going to come in here, just be sure you don't damage the chrome on the handle. In fact, I might switch to a different tool so that I got better control of that. There's one, and then we'll grab these two down here. Now, by the way, before I go any further, if you look down from above, you see like this white plastic reinforcement. This is just a view of how this whole thing is molded that I was showing you earlier. But let me go ahead and grab this guy. Now, if it falls down, don't freak out because you're going to be taking the panel off anyway, so it's not like you're not going to be able to eventually get it. There's one. And here's two. Okay. Now this next step is optional. This is what they recommended in the manual, but I would tell you that you could probably skip this, which is pulling off this electrical connection of the switch. But we're going to just work that front clip that we saw in the service manual illustration up. And then we're going to work the back clip off. And then just push to depress each of these connections. They only go in one way, so you don't need to mark them. And they're color-coded as well. Come on, baby, let go. You get one stubborn like this, you notice I'm not pulling on the wires. Do all of your manipulation just on the connector. Okay, so that's done. That metal clip is here on the front and here on the back. Actually, just going to tuck this down a little bit. All right, the next thing they wanted us to do was this panel here. So take a plastic trim tool so you don't scratch the paint, and we'll work the top clip off. And then it fits into the top of the panel. Now at this point, you could probably leave it attached. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do. So you can look, if you come up above, you can see there's a metal retainer that goes in the sheet metal here and a metal retainer that goes in the sheet metal there. We've got those popped out. I can't quite see how it's latched onto the upper trim, but it's not holding on to the door anymore, so we can just leave it like this. I don't want to break anything. We get it off, we can see if it was something we could have been a little bit more aggressive with. All right, at that point, we're ready just to pull this off. The next thing we have to do is release the door handle, but we can't do the cable for this, but we can't do that till we actually get this off. So all around the perimeter are going to be the typical kind of plastic retainers. So we're just going to take our plastic trim tool again, find a spot to get started. Just got to find a weak spot that you can get this in here somewhere. Come on, there we go. Get an idea for where the first one of these is. And we can pop it up with our hand at some point. And if they've never been off before, they are going to be on here really hard. Come on. I can see this guy here. I'm trying to make sure that he doesn't break, which is the other thing that can happen with these. All right, I'm going to move the camera a minute here so I can get a look inside to see if we've got this guy coming out even. All right, this plastic tool is flexing too much, and I don't want to have any of these break, so we're going to use a metal trim tool, and we're just going to stick a paper towel here right at the edge to make sure that we don't actually damage the paint. See if we can get this guy to finally let go. For some reason he is just really stubborn. You guys can come in on the side if you want. You can see what I got here. This is just this particular one. You know, he's kind of not all the way on the door panel, and so he's kind of coming out at an angle, right? So I got to get that metal tool under this little push-in clip in order to get him to come out without the head breaking off. Never seen one this stubborn. I mean, seriously. All right, we salvaged it, so you guys can come over here again. He didn't make a lot of noise, but he's out. All right, so there he is. So now we're going to try to go work around, see if we can get the others to come off as well. There we go. And I can get my hand under here, we can go a little faster. There we go. All right, I don't know what the deal was with that first one. We got these guys off. Got that one off. Got the ones on the bottom are off. Should be one more over here. There we go. Now, should be clear to lift this guy up. Unless I missed another one up on the top here. There we go. All right. Got everything done now, except for this guy. See if I can get it into a position where you guys can see. As you manipulate this around, watch out that you don't poke any of these into your door speaker. All right, so I'm going to have to use the mirror so you guys can see this, I think. Yeah, let me get the mirror because I don't think you can see around this edge. Looking at the camera, you guys really can't see it. Let me go grab that mirror again that we used at the beginning. All right, guys, so with the mirror here, and we zoom in, you can see there's a couple of tabs on this cable that have got to be depressed, right? I don't know if I can, I'm going to have to move the mirror to do this, but you guys see where the tabs are. I'm going to come in here and give them a squeeze. When you give them these two tabs a squeeze here, it'll allow you to pull this out, and then you'll be able to get this little ball out of where it sits right there. Right? So normally it sits right in there. It'll come out. These two tabs are what retain it in here. When you put it back together, you slide it in there like that, you pull it, and then you push it back in and snap it back in. I'll show that when we get to the end. But at this point, we've got this disconnected, and we can remove it. Now, there were a couple of things that the service manual was mentioning. This is that water deflector they were talking about. If that's missing, it needs to be replaced. That's a corrosion inhibitor item. And then as we look around here, what we were spending so much time on is not to break any of these little retaining clips. And each one of them should have a little washer on it that protects the paint around the vehicle. The hooks that you saw the service manual talking about, if I rotate this guy around and set him on my shoe for a second so he doesn't get damaged, these are the two hooks they were talking about, right? And these hooks, actually they're supposed to be a little grommet like this on this one, and I seated it, fell on the floor over here. But that hook on each one of these fits in here and here, and it's just to help you hold it. And you can see laying on the floor down there, there's the other grommet that fell off this one hook. All right, we've got this panel laid down on a furniture blanket so nothing gets marred or scratched while we do what we need to do here. I've replaced the gasket on the lower hook, and again I've did an inspection to make sure we're not missing any clips of any kind, and all of our alignment pins are in place. Nothing's broke, nothing's missing. So far so good. The next step we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to replace these remove these four 7mm retaining bolts. All right. Now with these guys out of the way, we're just going to set them up here so they don't get lost. I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to show you the next step. So this handle is plastic welded to the door frame, which is why if you're going to replace it with a GM part, you have to replace the entire thing. This pin, this one, this one, and this one, this one, this one, and this one, this pin here, this one, this one, and this one, this one, this one, and this one. So that's what's retaining the grab handle to the door panel. What we're going to do now is these two are just used like alignment guide pins, but when they were building this, they all looked like this. And then as these pushed out, there was a machine that came in and melted all of this down along with all these other pieces to assemble it together. You can see this technique is used in a number of places where these pegs get melted down as a form of plastic welding. So we're going to take a 7/32" drill, and we're going to drill all these out. I'll show you one of these, but then I'm going to go do the others offline. We'll come back when we get all of these drilled out. What we got here? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Got to drill out 12 of these. So let me get set up with the drill, and we'll start on this side, and then we'll sweep through these. All right, something else, guys. You know, when I was going to get the drill, some of these pieces of plastic fell out when we took the panel off. There was quite a few of them, actually. These are part of the broken handle, so you'll have a variety of these things that probably fall out when you remove this. So that's all trash. Don't worry about it. All right, so let's go ahead and do a technique to break these welds off. I'm purposely reversing it and then going forward. Now, why did I do that? Well, it's just giving me like the same as doing a center punch without having to put the stress of a center punch down here. So I was hoping is that, you know, just a small hole like that might be enough for us to get this guy to come loose. I don't know how deep these welds go, but just need to break this melted head off so that we can pull this thing through. So I'm just kind of pulling up on here and seeing what we got going on. So I don't want to make the hole any larger than the existing peg, because that's going to make it problematic to replace this. See if we can use this guy as a little hammer. See if we can just kind of get this to come loose. So what we're trying to overcome here is when the machine came down and melted this peg, it also melted this bracket that it goes around. And we want to have that bracket stay intact while we chip all this white material off. But you can see as I get this stuff worked away, this melted flash. See, there's our original hole in our peg shape, right there. Let's do this one. I'm going to need to get a different tool to kind of get this little piece, because again, I don't want to damage where it's already melted by the machine on this black bracket. Right, so that's probably how the best of them are going to go. And then we can just fold these pieces along the side in, like that. And then when we get ready to do this, this should separate nicely. Yeah, you can see right there, that's going to separate nicely. So that's how I'm going to do all of these. I'm going to probably get this with a small tool. I'll go ahead and show you that so you can see how to deal with running this in where it has melted into the two pieces. Let me go get another tool that I can chisel this out with. Alright, so I'm actually going to use a very small 1/4 inch chisel here to get this out. And, guys, don't worry about tapping on it with the ratchet. It's plastic, okay? It's not going to cause any problems. But we'll go ahead and switch here all the same. Okay, so I think we are good to go on this side. I think what we're looking at this point is just some melted flash. And spending your time on the prep here will make the final step where I show you how to replace this part go a lot better. Just kind of folding these sides in, just like that. Right, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the rest of these in this same fashion. Then we'll blow all this debris out. Then I'll show you how to remove and replace this armrest as a single assembly. Just about done here, guys. These ones on the bottom, since the plastics are the same type of material, they adhere to each other a lot stronger than the dissimilar types or the different colored types. We're just kind of collapsing it on itself. All right, so at this point, I think we are ready to go. So this is where you should be. So we've got everything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one should be just like you see it. If not, you got to chip that one off too. Then this guy. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. So now we've got a bunch of debris with all these weld heads that we chipped off. We got to, of course, get all this cleaned out of here. It'll find its way into little pockets. We got some shavings from doing the partial drill outs. Another way you could do this, if you didn't want to do it the way I did, another way you could do it is with a Dremel tool with a 90-degree angle head, and you could just sand these off. You'd need to have that type of tool in order to get down here without damaging any of this other plastic. But at this point, we should be able just to tip this guy up. I'll take some of the larger pieces out. Might just run a vacuum on that. Well, no, we'll just dump it out. I don't think that there's really anywhere for it to get lost, so to speak. All right, and so we should be able now to work this loose from the overall panel. There's that one. You want to go gentle. You don't want to break anything. As you can see, what's happening is this whole piece now is coming off. We're stuck somewhere over here. It looks like we're stuck on this bottom weld. Maybe this one. There we go. All right. And now this whole thing is ALF. And then we can get a better idea of what happens is inside here, like this stuff just disintegrates. Right? It just falls apart. It's just a very poor design, unfortunately. All right, so with that out of the way now, what we're left with on the other side is a good, solid mounting surface for the replacement. Now, what are we replacing it with? Well, I don't usually use aftermarket parts, but when something like this occurs and somebody does a good enough job, I'm willing to give them a shot. Now, Dorman, just for the driver's side, and in only 2 colors, unfortunately. So this is a driver's side in tan, 80995, but I'll put all the part numbers for the different colors in the video description with some links for you. They provide the hardware, and they provide a replacement one of these. And so, and rather than, going all amateur night with duct tape and spray foam and stuff, this allows you to do it more professionally. Get this unpacked here. And the only thing I can see right now looking at this part that I'm not super happy about is the color shade. Like anything aftermarket, there's always going to be something, but the color shade's off. But each of these studs made of metal is going to take the place of the ones that we just took off that were plastic. Bit of flash we're getting off of there, and it looks like from the factory they cut this one a little short, unfortunately, but it's better than what we had, and it's cheaper than doing a straight up GM panel replacement. So we can line this up, work it into those holes. And you can see they got the texture spot on. They did a good job on the texture. The feel is spot on. It's way stronger than the original. Fortunately, the color is just slightly off. I don't know if they do that on purpose so they can match a couple of different trim colors. This one's cashmere, and so maybe they're trying to come somewhere between cashmere and neutral so they can cover more trucks with the same part. I don't know, but it looks a heck of a lot better than the broken one, so we're going to go with it. So now I'm just trying to make sure all these studs are lined up. Try to turn this around for you guys. All right, so we got these through. Trying to work these through now. That one, that one. So we're going to grab that hardware pack and see what they give us in here. All right, so as expected, we got a series of washers, big washers, small washers, and then fasteners. And so the washers, I suspect, are here. There's no instructions with the unit, by the way, but they do have them online. Of course, I did the video. You, of course, use the video in lieu of that, but I'll put a link to the actual Dorman instructions in the video description as well. So depending on where you're at, like so this guy here on the metal, I would just go with the small one if I went with anything at all. Come on. Actually, up. Different size fasteners. So the two on the metal are larger threads. That's probably why they have them packaged separately. And maybe they don't want you to use that on there. Fish that other guy out in a minute. All right, so I'm going to get these on and start trying to manipulate this to where it feels like it's going to be sitting well. And then I guess you'll decide if you want to use a small washer or a large washer depending on the plastic damage. So let me get all these started and then we'll come back. All right, guys, we got it all ready to put back in. Large washers obviously go on the top because they only give you 6. No washers where you already have the metal piece. So these two 8 millimeters go here. The rest are 7 millimeters on the top. Small washers on these positions down here. This guy that was cut too short by the factory defect, we couldn't get a washer on it, so unfortunately, he'll be without one. They did give us one, but we can't use it. And then the torque value in all this is 10 inch-pounds. So you're going to need a torque wrench that goes down that low if you want to torque it. This is going into the same kind of white plastic that the original one was, so you don't want to use any power tools and you don't want to go more than 10 inch-pounds or you will strip these studs out of this piece and it'll be garbage. But follow the directions here and you'll be ready to go. And like I said, the only thing I can say that I don't like about this, if we flip it back around, like I said, the texture is great, but the color is, it's off. There's always something with aftermarket parts, but the texture's right. The fitment is fine. We'll see how the switch panel fits in, but everything else seems to be okay. But it's definitely, an improvement on anything you could have done, amateur night-wise. It has a very OE feel and look to it. And the owner of this truck, they just didn't want to go with what I would recommend, which was a whole new GM panel. They wanted something a little cheaper, but still have an OE look. And so I decided we'd give this a shot, and it looks okay for right now. We'll see how it holds up. Let's go ahead and get it reinstalled. All right, so we're going to set it on the hooks just to help us hold it. And then we're going to put this guy back in the way I showed you earlier. All right, so we're going to pull it, slide it, push it in, lock it. It's that easy. Now we're going to route these power cables up through here so we can get to them. Okay, we had a black and we had a gray. Where is our little gray guy at? There he is. She got all these handy. And then we can lift it off the hooks for a moment to get it lined back up with the door sill. I'm going to go ahead and do this before I go much further because I'm curious about the fitment. And by the way, I remember I told you don't have to worry about forgetting where they go. Everything's color-coded and it tells you what color goes where. You can't go wrong. So here's gray. Here's brown. Here's the main black connector. And then black here. This one's blue, this one's white, this one's green. Okay, so I want to see if this is going to fit. Okay, yeah, it fits great. Snapped right in, so that's not a problem either. Okay, so now we're going to come along the edge. And if you come inside here, we're going to make sure this peg here, this alignment peg, is in the hole and that the first of these clips is lining up and the second of these clips is lining up. So they're ready to push that in. And then I'm going to go do the same thing on this other side. Won't be able to show it to you guys, but now you know what I'm doing over here. Just making sure everything is lining up okay before we give it a push. And then on the bottom here, I'm going to lay down for a moment. I'm going to do the same thing. Get it lined up and pushed in. What I'm trying to avoid here is not breaking any of these little white nylon clips. You can replace them. I'll put the part number for them down in the description at the bottom if you end up having some broken ones, but a little extra time avoids having to worry about that. We're going to go ahead and line up our 3 clips for this guy. Same deal. We'll take our little door latch guy and we'll slide him back on. Yeah, we grabbed him too soon. Too soon. Get my little pry tool. You grab him too soon, he'll latch on in the wrong position. So make sure he's all the way up. And we want to make sure he's all the way down. Now we got him in the right spot. Okay. Then we're going to take our 10 millimeter that goes behind the door here. And then we're going to take the 210s that go behind the handle. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned it in the previous clip. We had to put those 4 black 7 millimeter original GM bolts back in. That's part of what we're screwing into now, is that black bracket. All right, got that guy started. See if I can see this guy and get him started. All right. Go get a ratchet wrench, or rather a torque wrench, and we'll torque these guys up to what we saw in the service manual, and then we'll come back and put these covers on. All right, guys, we got these 2 in, 18 inch-pounds. We're coming up here doing the last one. 1/4 inch hardware fits in a lot better than 3/8 with this particular set of obstructions you got in your way. And then we're done with that. And then we'll put our 2 covers back on. Remember, these 2 clips go on the top. That snap in? That did not snap in. Got to get the bottom one in first. Then, okay. And then we'll do this one with the bottom in first as well. Whoops. Just not getting the side here latching properly, even though the latch is okay. Makes me think we might have went too far. Let's try again. There we go. All right, everything is back together. And we'll put the window back up. And we're done. We'll go ahead and give this a few test opens and closes, but I think we're fine. Like I said, this leaves us with a real OE look to the repair. About the only thing I can say I'm not happy with is like 3 things. I'm not happy with the color shading. It's I would have preferred a closer color match, but this is often a problem with aftermarket parts compared to genuine GM. The other thing I'm not happy with is one of those studs being cut too short from the factory, so we couldn't get the washer on, so we don't have the kind of strength that we wanted to have there. And I guess the third thing I would say is it's a little bit off when you take a look at the seams here. So the fitment here, the gap's fine, it's great. Our cover fit on fine, but then we've got a little bit of kind of like some warpage at the front. And I don't know if that's just this particular piece or if they're all like that. Be interested if you end up trying this, if you find the same thing, but these are all very minor. I've seen people, wrap duct tape on this stuff. I've seen people put a piece of wood back here, all kinds of, hacky things, and wanted something more OE, and that's what we got. If you got questions or comments, go ahead and leave it below, and I'll try to help. If you found this useful, taught you a way of doing this with an OE look without having to spend what it takes to do a complete new GM panel, appreciate you paying it forward and hitting that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.